Despite a loss in Las Vegas to conclude the season, I would think most of us would consider 2018 to be an accomplishment, certainly a victory for Herm Edwards and the Arizona State football program. The same record at 7-6, but staying within one score of every loss within the conference and playing rather well, highlighted by an 18-point win over Pac-12 championship-bound Utah. We've got Jordan Kay on the line, of course, as we look toward the future on this National Signing Day in mid to late December. Jordan joins us from House of Sparky. It's the SB Nation platform for Arizona State athletics. Jordan, how you doing tonight?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, just trying to track all this. And, of course, with Arizona State, a 32nd ranked class in the nation, number 5 in the Pac-12. I don't necessarily know that those numbers resonate one way or the other. They seem decent, but not spectacular. Your thoughts about where the class ranks right now?
Yeah, I think this is kind of what everyone expected in Herm Edwards' first true recruiting cycle. We sat down with kind of the director of player personnel back in June, Al Luganbill, who is the dad of Tom Luganbill that many people know from ESPN. And he kind of said it was June and they didn't have one public commit. And he admitted, like, hey, we're behind on this class and we're going to have to do a lot of catching up. And what they've done is really focus in on California and Arizona and really not stray too far from that. Todd Graham, when he was at ASU, did a lot more of recruiting in Texas and not so much California. And that kind of made a lot of people mad because they kind of saw, hey, here's a hotbed right next to you. Why not go there instead of trying to go get kids from Texas who are going to be competing with SEC schools and stuff like that? Why not only compete with USC instead of having to compete with Alabama and A&M and Texas and Oklahoma? Like, there's no point for that. So this year's coaching staff is really focused on Arizona and California, and that kind of shows. There's not too many kids that stray from that. Most of the commits, I think there's right around 20 so far. Just about 10 have signed their letter of intent. A lot of them are from California, and a lot of them are from Arizona. Not too many others. There's a few from Texas, one from Oregon. But all in all, it's kind of right there. And they had a few goals when they kind of went out for recruiting. One was to get bigger. They kind of looked at the roster they had and noticed there wasn't a lot of height, wasn't a lot of kind of build and muscle. And they realized that, hey, we can go get kids that are kind of underdeveloped, but as long as they have kind of the intangibles, we can build everything around that. So you look at kids like Roman DeWeese, he's going to redshirt right away, might take 2 or 3 years to play. He's young, but he's an offensive lineman that is super tall, has great build, and they can mold him into something they want. The biggest thing with this class is it's a lot of guys that they knew they weren't going to be able to just go and just grab a bunch of 4 stars. So what they tried to do was grab some 3 stars that had potential and that hadn't fully hit their potential. So you kind of notice that a lot with guys like Nolan Matthews, a tight end, or just some of the other guys that they've kind of recruited, Jordan Curley, Jordan Clark, some of those guys that they can kind of mold into something instead of a finished product already.
Talking Arizona State football with Jordan Kay from House of Sparky, the SB Nation platform for Arizona football. You mentioned going after the 3 stars that fit the scheme, the program, the purpose, rather than just reaching for stars. But in the one position in which there has been star power is the star power position of all positions, and that's quarterback. And in watching the Las Vegas Bowl gun to gun, that was a topic that came up a number of times, led by the recruitment and signing of Jaden Daniels, but with 3 pretty highly touted quarterbacks coming into the fold.
Yeah, and Daniels actually made the trip out to Las Vegas and was in the stands to watch the Las Vegas Bowl. But yeah, they have 3 guys. Daniels is a 4-star, right around 100th in the country. Yellen is a 4-star by some, a 3-star by others. And then they have Ethan Long, who's a pro style, they list him as, but he's kind of a Manny Wilkins-esque type quarterback where it's kind of he can run, but you would list him as a pro style. And this is it brings up an interesting competition come the spring. And I talked to all three of them in the past week just to kind of like gauge how they're looking at this competition. And it seems interesting because I don't know, in the era of college football that we're in now, where kids are transferring in and out all the time, and you're going to bring in 3 quarterbacks into one class. I was kind of surprised that they got 3 quarterbacks to a class. Like, I know Joey Yellen was talking about that schools, right when the crystal ball stuff and all that came out, that he was going to go to ASU, schools started going after him hard, trying to see, hey, like, you're going to have to compete with this guy. Like, you want to reconsider, hey, we got this opportunity. We don't have anyone signed. And they were really trying to pull him away based upon the fact that they didn't think that he could beat out Daniels. And it kind of like pissed him off. And he just like, hey, I want to go into this competition. Like, I'm a pro style. My game is 100% different than Jaden Daniels. Because if you look at Joey Yellen, in the past 3 years, he has accumulated a total of negative 29 rushing yards. So that
in
is
high school.
Yes, that is the prototypical pro style guy. Jaden Daniels, on the other hand, has rushed for over 3,500 and threw for over 14,000 yards in 4 years, which is just absurd. So yeah, the coaching staff is going to have 3 guys coming in. They're all coming in for the spring, and it's going to be just about a quarterback competition with those 3. ASU does have another quarterback. It's a redshirt sophomore, to-be redshirt junior, Dylan Sterling Cole, who was highly rated coming out of high school, but he just has not shown developed accuracy or just anything that would make you think that he's going to somehow win this job. So it really looks like a 3-guy battle with all freshmen for the starting quarterback role. And I kind of asked him, like, too, like, hey, like, you guys know you're probably going to get in this quarterback room come spring, and you can take a look around, and 2 of you might not be here in 2 years. Like, and they kind of like, they admitted that they had kind of thought about that there's this transfer thing looming over college football right now, especially with the 4-game redshirt rule, where it'll be interesting to see how many of them stay. And if one goes, we just saw Georgia with Justin Fields. And that was one thing that ASU fans got really nervous because Joey Yellen, the 4-star from Mission Viejo, he was highly recruited by Georgia, even had a thing where he flew on his own dime to Georgia to go throw in front of the coaches. And that kind of scared people a little bit when Justin Fields transferred a few days ago. Like, oh no, he might be going back, but he ended up staying here. And I think all these guys have kind of been told, like, hey, like, literally the best, whoever plays the best in the spring and in the fall is going to get this job. And I think all 3 of them think they're the best and think they're going to win. And when you look at the offense, I think it'll be interesting because whoever they pick is really going to tell you where the offense is going. If they pick Ethan Long, who's more of a pro style that can run, it's like, we're going to keep the exact same offense as last year. If they pick Joey Yellen, a pro style guy who can just throw the ball, hey, we might be going for a lot more air raid type stuff. And offensive coordinator Rob Likens did a lot of that at Kansas. So that could be very interesting. And then if you go with Jaden Daniels, hey, we're just going to pound the ball on the ground. We'll have Jaden Daniels run the ball 10 times a game, maybe throw it another 15, 18, and then have Eno Benjamin take the run from there. So this quarterback competition is going to be very interesting. And I can't remember the last time that 3 incoming freshmen were dueling it out for a starting job. So it'll be definitely interesting to watch.
Yeah, the deluge of quarterbacks, quality quarterbacks, seems a bit odd and surprising, considering that Herm Edwards, with a fine reputation overall as a football coach and popular, but not necessarily known as a quarterback guy, a developer of quarterbacks. This is not Lincoln Riley or Kevin Sumlin or somebody who's known as a guy, okay, I need to go study under him because he's going to provide the type of offense that's going to set me up for the NFL draft and also develop me from the standpoint of technique and fundamentals to get me to that level as well. So it's impressive what he's been able to accomplish for Arizona State on the recruiting trail. That includes, as you mentioned, 11 signed at this point, 7 out of California, 5 out of Arizona State. Let's see, California with 7, Arizona with 5. I know that doesn't add up, but those are the commits, obviously. 11 signed. Where do we expect this class to land in regards to numbers when it's all said and done?
I think it's going to be right around. We've had 11. I think it's going to be right around 20 to 22, best case scenario. They right now, I think they have 20 guys that have committed, and I think they're expecting all of them to sign. The two that are kind of up in the air right now are Drake Jackson. He's a defensive end from Southern California. He's a 4-star guy that would, I think he would be right around their highest rated guy. He would be, if Drake Jackson committed, he would be their number 2 recruit. So that's kind of a big one. And the other guy is Stephon Wright, another defensive end out of California. He's another 4-star. So if they can get those 2 guys, that would kind of bolster the entire class. It seems a little up in the air right now, especially with Jackson. I've been hearing that his dad is kind of a USC guy, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But the one thing to note is both of them did show up to the Las Vegas Bowl together. One of them was wearing a ASU shirt. I can't remember exactly which one. That tells anyone anything. But one of the interesting things that kind of just tells you about Herm Edwards and what he's going to do recruiting-wise is when they were trying to get Drake Jackson, they've been doing what they call caravan recruiting. And so instead of sending 1 or 2 coaches to a house and kind of doing that, they decided to send 7 or 8 coaches to a house and really just go all in on this one guy and kind of make the rounds that way. So when they went to Drake Jackson, they kind of Drake Jackson's mom was actually pregnant and they were going to have a kid. So the ASU coaches decided to go to the hospital. I think there were 8 or 9 of them, and they showed up at the hospital. I think it was like early in the morning, and went into the delivery room with Drake Jackson's family as his brother was being born. And right after they left, they kind of sent a text offering the newly born a scholarship offer to ASU. So if that tells you anything about kind of the recruiting tactics and some of that stuff, that's one of the oddest things I've kind of heard of.
Yeah, so we hear interesting stories each and every year, and they seem to get stranger by the year. This is the most strange situation that I've heard about in this recruiting cycle. Maybe not of all time, but it's close. And if it's a sincere gesture of care and concern and joining in the celebration, hey, that's a great thing. Wow. To me, it might be a little bit overboard, but they know their clientele better than I do in regards to, I would think that maybe depending on, you would really need to know the family and the situation and the dynamics to think, okay, is this going to be interpreted as overstepping our bounds, or is this going to be seen as an act of we want you to be part of the family. We want to be part of the family, and we certainly want to celebrate with you. It could be taken either way. I
think they did text the mom and ask, like, hey, would you mind if we drop by or something? So that it was not just a barrage, but
there you go.
Still, still
absolutely. Hey, as long as the family wants that and the mom, that's dedication. That's where we are in college football, and that's a beautiful thing. Again, from a sincere standpoint, over the course of some of the other things that have been done to recruit these players. To your point, Drake Jackson, a top 165 player according to 247 Sports. That's regardless of position. So this is pretty rarefied air in regards to the entire, considering that we've already had 1,300 players signed today, and that's going to be more in the 65 for the Power 5, 130 FBS. We're going to have 4,000 players signed when it's all said and done throughout the FBS. We're talking about a top 150 to 200 player in Drake Jackson, a 12th rated at his position. Stephon Wright, number 18 at his position. He's a top 250 player as well. So 2 prime candidates for Arizona State to possibly make a solid class even better, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Jordan Kay joins us from House of Sparky to break down Arizona State football. And of course, it's National Signing Day, what was once the first Wednesday of February. Not that still doesn't exist, but now that we see that close to 80% of the players are signed in the Power 5 in December, this has become National Signing Day. since you're the only Power Five team that's already participated in postseason play and or therefore wrapped up the season, Jordan, I'll ask you this question. Your thoughts about the way 2018 concluded, with more so a look toward 2019, and what did we see late in the season in 2018 that despite the loss of your quarterback, your best talent on offense with N'Keal Harry and some particular pieces, what transitions to 2019 that we can take away from what we saw late in the season?
Yeah, especially in the bowl practices. Although ASU did play in the earliest bowl game, so really didn't get to use all their bowl practices like some of the other schools are going to be able to. I think this 4-game redshirt rule really helped them because they were able to start really giving meaningful practice reps to some of the freshman receivers or guys they were going to redshirt, and receivers and running backs, because N'Keal Harry was gone and they needed someone to step up in the bowl game. They were kind of able to just, here you go, guys, like here, take all these reps, get all this stuff, and then put it out into a game. And it kind of was like a test run almost for 2019 as far as the offense goes, because you had guys like a freshman receiver, Jordan Porter, who is going to redshirt this year, didn't really play at all, was able to get in the game, didn't catch a pass, but was out there running routes. Manny Wilkins and him were really trying to connect during practice, and because they understood it was going to translate to a game. Curtis Hodges, a 6'7" receiver who probably is going to redshirt this year, didn't really play at all, and then got in the game for a decent number of meaningful reps. It's stuff like that to where they were able to kind of flash to the future for that bowl game. And this was life without N'Keal, and these are the receivers we're going to have to line up, and this is how much we're going to have to use the run game with Eno Benjamin. So stuff like that I think is really helpful to really get a glance on it. And they do have receivers coming in this class, guys like Ricky Pearsall from Arizona. They do have John Humphrey. He was an Oklahoma transfer a few years ago, then tore his Achilles in spring ball. So they're going to get him back. So they do have receivers to kind of replace N'Keal Harry, but as you know, you can't really replace N'Keal Harry. On the defensive side too, I think they have played with so many freshmen. At times they're starting 6 freshmen on defense, to where it's a lot of like true freshmen. I think there were 1 or 2 redshirt freshmen, and that's really going to be able to build for next year, because when you have all that talent and all these guys starting, they're really only going to be able to go up from there, especially when there's more competition coming in and they're going to understand, hey, like my spot's not secure anymore like it was towards the end of last year. That's going to be, I think, very beneficial that they've had so many young guys playing so early. And then really when you look at it, it just comes down to the quarterback position. And I kind of thought about it as when they got 2 commits, the Joey Yellen and Ethan Long were the first 2 commits to commit to ASU about a week apart in June. And I kind of thought about it from ASU's coach's perspective, like, hey, we've got 2 chances to kind of hit a home run here with our future at quarterback. And then I kind of thought, like, maybe they were like, hey, what's better than 2 chances? Why not just have 3? So I think that was kind of maybe the mantra of, hey, we just need to hit on this quarterback position, and we're going to have a young team that should be able to build itself over 2 to 3 years and kind of make a run at a Pac-12 championship. And I think the quarterback was kind of that thing where the biggest kind of red flag up in the air type thing. And if they can get that solved, they've got kind of younger skill guys at other positions that should be able to take over. Maybe not the production-wise of N'Keal Harry, but maybe a N'Keal Harry by committee type thing of where the ball is being distributed in multiple places. They do have guys coming back on the O-line. Their secondary is kind of a lot of freshmen. Their defensive line, their only guy I think they're going to lose is Rennell Wren, who's likely to get drafted right around, I think, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, somewhere day 2, because he's just a monster. So it's, when you look at that, I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. Obviously, a 7-6 record, losing to Fresno State in the Las Vegas Bowl isn't the most glamorous of ways to go out, but I think a lot of people were expecting doom and gloom in Herm Edwards' first year, and now there's a lot of optimism. So at least around the fan base, I think it's pretty energetic right now.
And although you didn't have him for the Las Vegas Bowl, you've got that Batman Robin combination with Merlin Robertson. Unfortunately, not able to play in the game, but he'll be back for his junior or his sophomore season coming up here in 2019. Arizona State football talk with Jordan Kay from House of Sparky. So we encourage you to jump on over to SB Nation as we conclude National Signing Day to join Jordan and the rest of the staff as they wrap up Herm Edwards' second class or first full recruiting cycle at Arizona State. Jordan, we appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you, Mark. Have a good one.